Way to a Wonderful Life. I am Reverend Dr. Henry Lee Bates, and our Way to a Wonderful Life message for today is titled, Getting into the Spirit of It. Getting into the Spirit of It. Now, we know that the Spirit of God is an undivided and indivisible wholeness. It fills all time with its presence and people's space with the activity of its thought. It is, of course, difficult for the human mind to understand the meaning of such an all-encompassing presence. However, perhaps the greatest difficulty is that we try to make it too abstract. We already know that we live. We know that our life is peopled with events, persons coming and going, happenings that take place in our everyday experience, the thoughts in our own mind, the activities of our own affairs, the circulation of blood in our own body. So why not think that this is the place to begin? We already understand the presence of life. It is not difficult after all. We are alive, we are present, so we know that life is present. Our endeavor then is not so much to find God as it is to realize God's presence and to understand that the presence is always with us, always with us. Nothing can be nearer to us than that which is the very essence of our being. Our outward search for God culminates in the greatest of all possible discoveries, the finding of God at the center of our own being. And so we know that as we realize that we are a part of God, that living spirit within us that animates our body, that moves through our emotions and our feelings and our sense awareness is the intelligence of God. We know that we're alive with life, and if we're alive with life, then we know that life is God, so we have to be a part of God. We are a part of God. So as we bring into our mind in a greater way that we are a part of God, that living spirit within me is God's power, God's intelligence, and God's spirit, that I within each of us is the part of that infinite I, which is God, that I am that gives us the ability to take control of the conditions of our life, that gives us dominion and authority over those things that concern us, is God's power in us. As we start bringing that into our mind every day, we will find that power increases just as our faith increases as we pray and we realize that the good things that we pray for become manifest in our life with grace and ease. We must be at peace with the things that we encounter in life. Be at peace with the seeming problems. Be at peace with the seeming lack. Be at peace with the seeming health issues. Be at peace and know that God works for all things to our good, that God works all things to our good, and that if we open our mind to God, we will be guided and directed to all those things and to that greater realization and that greater understanding, just as Jesus had, that it is the Father that doeth the work. Jesus said, it is the Father that works, the Father works, and then I work. In other words, this power, this intelligence, this presence gives us the idea, gives us the good desire, and then we must act in faith. We must act in faith. So let's look at these words from the great Dr. Frank Richelieu, and this is from his book, The Art of Being Yourself, The Art of Being Yourself, and you can find his book at Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. It's Frank Richelieu, Richelieu, Richelieu. It's interesting that the first four letters of his last name is Rich, because this book is rich in spiritual principles, rich in guidance and directions that give us that opportunity to elevate our faith into something more powerful, more wonderful, more peaceful, more joyful, if we just look at these words and personalize them to ourselves. Dr. Frank writes, you do not have to figure out the how. Now, we went over this yesterday. You do not have to figure out the how. Remember that the power is always for you and always working with you. This is something that we all must realize in our minds. So let's look at his words again. You do not have to figure out the how. Remember that the power is always for you and always working with you. So many times people feel helpless and they feel hopeless and they feel disappointed because they can't figure out in their mind how they could possibly have the money that they need or have the opportunities that they want or do the things that they want to do, that something is blocking them, stopping them, obstructing them, and they don't know how to get through the obstruction. But we know that beyond the obstructions is the unobstructed, and that is the power, the presence, and the Spirit of God. So when we take it into our mind that we don't have to know how, we just have to see the good result, and rejoice in having it, rejoice in being it, rejoice in doing it, and start thinking that we have it, take possession of it in our mind and say, I have claimed this as mine, and I rejoice that it has come into my realization and come into my possession, because God has answered my prayer, as God answers all prayers based on our faith, based on the measure of faith, according to our belief, as Jesus would tell us. So let's go back to these words of Dr. Frank Richelieu. You do not have to figure out the how. Remember that the power is always for you and always working with you. The moment you establish this consciousness, you will know that you are working from the very truth of your being. This knowledge will give you a sense of freedom, even if outwardly the problem has not already resolved itself. If you have a problem, you are not weighed down, you are not caught, you are not trapped, you are free. You are already free of the difficulty you are experiencing, because you are free of that which is unpleasant. You are free of that which is dragging you down. You are free because you are free to choose, free to act, and free to grow. You are free to receive in consciousness the solution to what you are calling a problem. As we get this sense of freedom, for the law of attraction will draw into us that which we believe. As we get this sense of freedom, the law of attraction, which is the law of sowing and reaping, as Jesus would tell us, as we sow into our minds faith, as we sow into our mind that all things work to our good, and we keep telling ourselves that is the law in our life, that is the law unto us, then we shall see it made manifest in our life soon enough. We shall see it made manifest in our life soon enough. So let's look at these words from the great Dr. Ernest Holmes. This is from his book, This Thing Called You. That did you ever stop to realize that peace must actually exist at the center of everything? And if you ask yourself why, answer your own question, because in the long run, you will have to do this anyway. No one can answer your questions for you but yourself. Your very nature has willed it so. Peace must exist at the center of everything, or the universe itself would be a chaos. We already know this and believe it. Now we are going to act upon it. We are not only going to believe in it, we are going to act as though it were true, because it is true. There is peace at the center of our being, a peace that can be felt throughout the day and in the cool of the evening, when we have turned from our labor and the first star shines in the soft light of the sky. It broods over the earth quietly, tenderly, as a mother watches over her child. Today you are to identify yourself with the more abundant life, to think on those things which make for peace, to dwell on the unity which underlies everything. As you consciously poise yourself in the realization that you live in pure spirit, new power will be born within you. New power will be born within you. You will find yourself renewed by the divine life, led by the divine intelligence, and guarded by divine love. Focus your inward vision on this indwelling harmony, knowing that as you contemplate its perfection, you will see it made manifest in everything you do. Now, can we begin to believe that in our mind? Can we begin to accept that and start realizing that for ourselves? It's up to us to make the decision. You know, every day we wake up and we begin making decisions about our life. We begin making decisions about whether this is the day we look forward to, what it is that we plan to do, what it is that's already on our schedule that we must do. We start making decisions in our life every day. But how many times do we make that decision to have that greater life, that more joyful life, that more abundant life, and start seeing that increase of good and more good in our life every day. We need to consciously recognize the presence of God, recognize the things of the Spirit, peace and joy and happiness and prosperity and success and creative expression and love and beauty and harmony, all the things of the Spirit, and start identifying with them personally. We are to know that the good keeps us, that God the good, keeps us in perfect activity, surrounds us with love and friendship, and brings the experience of joy to everything we do. We are to impart an atmosphere of confidence and faith which uplifts and enlightens everything in our environment, including the people we come into contact with. When we start thinking about this, we realize that there is a power. That's a power that brought us into life, that we are life, and God is life, so therefore we're part of God, we're part of life, and so that power is always seeking to do more for us, always seeking. That's why we get these good desires of our heart. In our heart, we're desiring to experience something new, something greater. Even if we say, well, my only desire today is to be healthy, well, if you want to be healthy, we have to affirm that health and do all the things necessary to maintain that health. If we don't, then we will find that health will be elusive to us, that we will find little things wrong. Our body, our joints will begin to be a little sore, or we'll start feeling the allergies a little more, or something will happen. Dr. Frank Richelieu tells us in his book, The Art of Being Yourself. Once again, I want to recommend this book highly. He's one of the great teachers. He was the teacher of my teacher, Dr. O.C. Smith. It's an amazing book. You can take this book and just hold it in your lap or hold it in your hands and just open it and just start reading where your eyes meet the page, and you'll find something always for you, always something for you to inspire you and to elevate your mind and your heart and your soul and your consciousness into that something greater for yourself. So it's called The Art of Being Yourself. It's Frank Richelieu, Richelieu. You can buy the book on BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com. He tells us, start your day in mind first, and your day will be brighter and go more smoothly. Now, what does he mean in mind? It means get in the spirit of it. Getting into the spirit of life means to get our mind filled with the good, get our mind filled with the positive hope. If you have people problems or situation problems, reposition yourself in consciousness instead of trying to change other people. Do not simply wish for the situation to change or the individual to move away. Establish yourself a right in mind. Establish yourself a right in mind. You must first find peace within yourself to see peace in another person. You must first see divine perfection within yourself to experience the divine perfection of another. Life is one great creative adventure, and as we go forth to faith each day, let us be prepared in consciousness. If life appears to beat us back at every turn, if we feel held back or down, let us remember the spiritual power within us and prepare our day before we move into the living of it. Start preparing your mind. Start taking time to sit into silence and let God enter into your mind. Start taking time to sit into the silence and let God move through your soul with something positive, something wonderful, something that will bring you a greater joy today. We are here to enjoy life, to enjoy this thing called life in the greatest way possible, to realize that abundant life that Jesus said is ours to experience. He said, I have come that you may have life and you may have it abundantly. That's an abundant joy. Joy is a wonderful feeling. Joy is a feeling that magnifies every situation into something better, something more wonderful. We feel the joy of answered prayer. We feel the joy of seeing the good desires of our heart be made manifest. We feel the joy of finding solutions to our seeming problems. We feel a joy in achievements and accomplishments. We feel the joy in the things that are happening in the world that take on a more positive outlook of life. We feel the joy whenever we read something where someone has gained a success, and especially if we read something where we have gained our own success. So they'll start thinking about that word joy and start feeling the joy of it. Today is the day the Lord has made. Let's rejoice and be glad in it. Rejoice is joy. Joy. Feel the joy of it. Feel the joy of living. Feel the joy of life today. Life is rich and filled with opportunity for you, for everyone, but you must be open and available to this opportunity and move out and express it fully. Your Creator made you happy. This is from Dr. Frank Richelieu from his book. Your Creator made you happy, made you loving, made you complete. Universal intelligence made you of the very substance of itself. You are in potential everything that the allness is. There is no reason for withdrawing from facing this day. It is the day the infinite has made for you. Learn to rejoice in it and be glad. Today is waiting for you to live it. Waiting for you to live it. There is no need to fear it or dread it. Welcome it with an open heart and an eager mind. Be prepared in consciousness for the best, and the best will meet you each hour of the day. Be prepared in consciousness for the best, and the best will meet you each hour of the day. Be prepared for the best. Expect the best, and you might get it. Expect the best, and you pretty much always get it. Expect the best out of every situation, because when we expect the best, we have an expectation that our faith will create something wonderful and positive in our life. Our faith will create something more dynamic, something that will make us feel awake to life in a greater way, something that will create for us a greater enthusiasm for life. And with that enthusiasm comes that greater joy. If we will become still, answers will come to you. That's from Dr. Frank again. It will be revealed to you that you are an individual expression of the living Spirit. You have allowed your thinking to become so conditioned by the world that you may have forgotten, let's don't say we forgot, but we may have for a moment, who you are. Instead of letting the world or any external thing, anything outside of us, dictate to us, we should be dictating to it, directing it, guiding it. Let's say these words and think about these words. Say these words to yourself. Divine knower within me, reveal to me what I shall do. Divine God within me, divine Spirit within me, reveal to me what shall I do. What shall I do? What I shall do today. What I shall do about this seeming issue I'm dealing with. What I shall do about this greater increase of money and prosperity. How should I use it to a greater advantage? How should I invest it? Start asking God about everything. Expect everything. Ask God for everything and expect everything. Ask God for everything and expect everything. If we can just get ourselves into that consciousness, and we shall start finding a greater freedom in our life, a greater joy in our life, and we shall start loving life in a greater way. And if we don't love this thing called life, we lose it, because we're called to love life. Love God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and to love means to love God means to love life, because God is life. Love this life. Love the living of it. Love all the things that happen in it, even the seeming problems and the situations and the issues and the people that kind of frustrate you when you first encounter them. Just take it into your mind. Everything works to my good. I ask God for everything and I expect everything, because God is always responding to that which I believe to be true for me. And I believe that God seeks to live in a more abundant life, a more joyful life, a more wonderful life in me, as me, and through me today. Today and every day. I am part of God. I am part of life. I am part of the Spirit. I am intelligent, so therefore I am part of God intelligent. I have the power to choose, therefore I am part of the power of God. I have the Spirit within me of joy and happiness and peace and love and harmony and beauty, so therefore I am a part of the one Spirit, which is God. So I take these ideas into my mind and I start letting my mind dwell on those things that bring me a greater peace, a greater joy, a greater happiness, a greater feeling of being able to feel the love and the joy of just being alive today, and take it into my mind that God is looking to live through me in a greater way today. Jesus said, these things I do, greater things shall you do. So what's the greater thing that I'm going to do today? The first greater thing I'm going to do is to realize that God is with me in all things, that God is right where I am, that God is all there is, and let that all there isness, that allness of God, become part of my life. The great Thomas Troward said, by accepting the notion of a dual power, that of good and evil, the inverted creative working of fear is introduced with all its attendant train of evil things. And he doesn't say this, but it's like doubt and worry. This is the eating of the deadly tree which occasions the fall. That means the fall of man into believing that he's helpless and hopeless and separated from God, and therefore the redemption which requires to be accomplished is a redemption from fear. Not merely from this or that particular fear, but from the very root of fear, which root is unbelief in the love of God. The refusal to believe that love alone is a creating power in all things, whether small beyond our recognition or great beyond our conception. That love alone, and we know that love is the power of God as it creates through us, as us, and for us all the good desires of our heart, that God has created this universe in which we live, permeated its intelligence throughout this universe. And just as God's intelligence in that little single kernel of corn multiplies abundantly when it's placed in fertile soil, we know that when our mind, our ideas are placed in the fertile soil of faith and total reliance on the absolute reliance on God, that we can depend on our good being made manifest in the right and perfect way in the right and perfect time. So let's get into the spirit of it, and let's start affirming and declaring, right now, right where we are, today is my day. Today is my day to rejoice and give thanks for all things good, as I feel that gratitude for God. I feel that love for God. I feel that joy in being alive today. And I accept this as so for me and for everyone who chooses it to be for themselves. And so it is. Amen. Once again, I want to thank you for being with me this morning.